Are you ready? Well, it's 9 o'clock. Morning everyone. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou I tēnei rā. Nau mai, hara mai. Welcome to the first meeting of the new term of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board. I'm Margaret Harrison, the Area Manager. Welcome to our new members, Member Davis and Member Jeffcoat, and of course our returning members, Member Brett and Member Ashby. I'm sure through your induction process that you've been involved in since you were elected, you've all met our District Manager, Dean Allen, who is the head of our community management team. You've probably also met Donna Blick, who's our governance advisor, and her role is to keep us all in line and keep us safe. And behind me, we've got Helena Stratford, who is also a member of our community management team. And we've got Kathy over on this side, who is our communications officer, and she'll be reporting on our board meetings. And of course, online, welcome to the staff online, who I'm sure his faces will become familiar to you all over the next 3-year term. So, to start our meeting off, if I could call for any apologies.
Yes, we have one apology received from Councillor Morrissey. He has a leave of absence till the 2nd of December.
Okay, cool. If I could have a mover and a seconder to receive Councillor Morrissey's apology.
I move.
I'll second. Come and jump in. Cool. And from there, we will move straight into the first business of the community board, which is to elect the chairperson. And I'll take it that you've all read your agenda, and item 1.2 is the election of the chairperson and deputy chair. And what we will do is break our suggested resolutions down into a couple of parts. So if I could take a mover and a seconder for the first part of the resolution, which is number 1, which is for the community board to receive the election of chairperson and deputy chairperson report dated the 3rd of November 2022. And secondly, if the community board could approve the system they wish to use for voting, staff have recommended system B in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, Schedule 7, Clause 25, Section 2. So if I could have a mover and a seconder for that, please.
Yep, so I'll move that those are done.
I'll second.
Thank you. So our first part of business is if I could call for nominations for the position of chairperson of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Mr. Jeffcoat.
Thank you, Jim.
Member Jeffcoat has been nominated. Do I have a seconder?
Yep, I'll second it.
Seconded by Jane. Do I have any other nominations? No? Well, then I will declare that Member Jeffcoat be appointed to the position of chairperson of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, Schedule 7, Clause 37.
Yes.
Next, I'd like to call for nominations for the position of Deputy Chairperson of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board. Can I have any nominations, please?
I'll nominate Jean Ashby.
Jean Ashby, do we have a seconder?
I'd second that.
Jim Davis. Do we have any other nominations? No? Then I'm happy to declare that Member Ashby be appointed to the position of Deputy Chairperson of the Coromandel-Colville Community Board in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, Schedule 7, Clause 17. Can I play all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now I can vacate the seat and I'd ask Member Jeffcoat to come forward and take the chair.
Thank you.
We're just getting our act together.
You don't have to hold hands.
That one is good. So this is our presentation. And we're going to introduce Alison. Who's going to sit to the side. And it's involved.
Thanks, everyone. Get started on the business. So first item 1.3 is the general explanation of statutory requirements for elected members. There was a report and the agenda from Alison Hunt, Legal Counsel. Alison, welcome to our first community board meeting.
Thank you. It's very good to be here. Congratulations to you all on your elections.
Thank you.
My role here today is to provide the general explanation of statutory requirements, which is a requirement itself under the Local Government Act. This report has already been given to councillors, so this now is the same information being given to you. Some of this information will be information you're familiar with through the induction process. So I apologise for things that sound familiar, but it is a good thing if it's sounding familiar to you. The requirements under the Local Government Act are to give you an overview of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, and to also include reference to the Local Authority Members' Interests Act, the Crimes Act, Secret Commissions Act and Financial Markets Conduct Act. We also additionally provide a brief introduction to the Protected Disclosures Protection of Whistleblowers Act, Public Records Act and Health and Safety at Work Act. There is a lot of information available in guidance documents, and the governance team will be providing further information, and further training will be rolled out over the term. So to make a start on the statutory requirements to run through, the Local Government Official Informations and Meetings Act is otherwise known as LGOIMA in shorthand. It's a very key piece of legislation in a local government setting. It deals with both access to information and also the business of local government meetings. In relation to information, the key principle is that information should be made available to the public unless there is good reason to withhold it. And the good reasons are contained in the Act. Common examples that we might use to withhold information would be if there will be some commercial prejudice involved, to protect an individual's privacy on a matter, to maintain confidentiality, or to maintain legal professional privilege. But it will only be that information is withheld if it is in the public interest to do so. A person making a request for information, if they're not happy with the information they receive, can make a complaint to the Ombudsman. So there is a complaints process which staff manage. The staff are delegated authority to make decisions to withhold and to respond to the Ombudsman under our delegations register. So the Chief Executive is delegated authority to make decisions under LGOIMA, and that is subdelegated to staff in some instances. Any request for information that elected members receive should be referred to the Chief Executive in the first instance. Any information marked public excluded in terms of a meeting agenda should not be released outside of the meeting concerned, but do speak to somebody in governance or refer the matter to the Chief Executive for further guidance and support. In relation to meetings, the LGOIMA provides rules about meetings and that they should be in public. The public will only be excluded if there are good reason to exclude them, and those are similar to the matters that I mentioned just a moment ago about confidentiality and so on. The LGOIMA also enables the Mayor to add an agenda item if it cannot wait till the next meeting. This will likely only relate to major and urgent matters, as minor matters do still need to be referred to a subsequent meeting for a resolution or a decision. And a council agenda must be publicly available 2 clear days prior to the meeting, thereby giving the public good information about the business of council. Moving on to the Local Authority Members' Interests Act 1986. This is an act designed to protect the integrity of local authority decision-making and deals with conflicts of interest. There are two forms of interests that it deals with. The first, relating to pecuniary interests, is essentially financial interests involving money, directly or indirectly. You as elected members cannot enter into a contract worth more than $25,000 unless the Auditor General approves it. Breach of this rule automatically disqualifies the member from office. You cannot participate in matters before the council in which you have a pecuniary interest, other than an interest in common with the public, such as being a ratepayer. Breach of this rule is a criminal offence and results in automatic disqualification from office also. Note that your spouse may hold an interest or your family trust may have a pecuniary interest, so there are a few matters to consider. It is your obligation to declare an interest and to comply with the Act. The Office of the Auditor General produces a booklet on matters such as this, and it is a very good reference tool, so I would recommend having a look for information from the Office of the Auditor General. There's also new amendments to the Local Government Act, which you no doubt will have heard about through the induction program. There is now a requirement for a public register of interests to record members' interests. That is a requirement after the 20th of November, so quite soon. Members will be required to provide returns to a registrar who will be appointed to keep the register. An interest not involving money is called a non-pecuniary interest. So this is the other type of interest to be concerned with. Commonly, this is referred to bias or predetermination. And bias may exist where, by conduct or statements, a member may indicate they've predetermined a matter before a hearing, or the member has a close relationship with an individual or organisation affected by the matter. It's the validity of the council's decision that may be at risk, and perception can be a very important factor in terms of dealing with that non-pecuniary type of interest. The Crimes Act. There are three sections to touch on under the Crimes Act. Section 99 defines a member as an official for the purposes of offences under this Act. And the offences are, it is an offence to accept or solicit a bribe or use information obtained in your role for financial gain. Offences are punishable by a term of imprisonment up to 7 years, and a conviction will disqualify you from office. Secret Commissions Act 1910. This Act establishes that you are an agent. You cannot accept gifts without the consent of the council. You must disclose a pecuniary interest in any contract you make with the council. You must not knowingly deliver a false receipt or invoice in relation to the council's business. Offences under this Act are punishable by a term of imprisonment not exceeding 7 years. The Financial Markets Conduct Act. This Act essentially places elected members in the same position as company directors whenever council offers financial products, such as an issue of debt or equity securities. Elected members may be personally liable if documents are registered under this Act. Such a document, as a product disclosure statement, if it contains false or misleading statements. Protected disclosures, the Protection of Whistleblowers Act 2022. It's a new act. This carries on the role of the previous act, of course. If you become aware of serious wrongdoing in the course of your role, you are protected from liability when disclosing that wrongdoing to authorities under this act. Under council's processes, the options to report potential wrongdoing include reporting to the council's confidential provider, which is PwC, the council's manager of people and capability, the group manager of corporate services, or the chief executive. And that would obviously depend on the circumstances as to who is appropriate. Public Records Act. This act essentially creates accurate records of council business. So it's very important that if you hold a record and it is a public record, that it is put into our systems. This act has a role in enhancing public confidence in the integrity of local authority records. A record could include a signature, a seal, text, images, sound, speech, or data stored in any device or medium. And it is the responsibility of the member to determine if they hold information which is a record under this Act and to ensure it is included in council's records. You can do that by forwarding information to the governance team or through the Chief Executive. The last piece of statutory information is about the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015. Under this Act, the Council is a PCBU, which is a person conducting a business or undertaking. This Act places duties on people who are in the best position to control risks to health and safety, which are appropriate in the workplace. Interestingly, for the purposes of this Act, elected members, which include the Mayor and councillors, excludes community board members. So the Mayor and councillors are officers under this Act, but community board members are not. The CE and GMs are also officers, and there are various obligations of due diligence on them in relation to matters under that Act. So that's a fairly quick run through of what's the general statutory obligations. As I said earlier, there is information available and people able to assist you with any questions, but that is the statutory requirements that you need to be given at your first meeting. So that completes my report.
Cool. Thank you, Alison. So just to get us underway, then I'd like to move that the Coromandel-Colville Community Board receive the general explanation of statutory requirements for elected members 2022 report dated 10th of November 22. I have
I'll second it.
Thank you. So any discussion? So for me, first I'd like to say thanks, and certainly through the induction process, it's been pretty comprehensive. I'd like to say it's good to see that a lot of that information was familiar already, and yeah, just like to say recognise the work that everybody's put into the induction and the days and teams that's gone through all this and prepared us for our roles on the community board. Anyone else have a comment in relation to the statutory requirements? No? Cool. So all in favour of receiving the report, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay, the motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you, Alison. Move to the next part. I suppose that's you as well, standing orders. No.
No. So the standing orders is the report that have been read. It's just sorry, my train of thought. It's just on how the board will. It's just a framework on how the board will manage their meetings moving forward.
Yes.
So I guess we just.
So everyone's read
Based on
information
our
on the agenda?
agenda. It's based on our agendas, so it's standard.
Yeah, I see there's changed though from the one that's in the website.
Yeah, it's been updated.
Upgraded. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so everyone's aware of it. There's two resolutions that were suggested by staff. I'd like to move that we receive the community board standing orders for 22-25 term report dated 10th of November. That we adopt the standing orders that were attached in Appendix A, which notes two things. One, that the casting vote is available for use by the chair. Three things. Secondly, that the audio-visual link is available for use to enable members to join. And that the default position for speaking and moving motions is option C, which includes a lot more flexibility. So do I have a seconder for the motion?
I second
Jean? Just in terms of discussion, so in terms of adopting the part of it, the existing members, did you feel that they worked well for us? That casting vote by the chair, the audio link, and the option C.
Well, we never really had to use the casting one at all. That's, yeah.
Okay, and the way that motion, that resolutions were put forward and people were able to speak to them.
Fine.
It worked good. Cool.
Very well done.
Any other comments about them? No? So yeah, all those in favour of the motion being passed, say aye. Any against? Motion's passed. Thank you. 7 minutes early for public forum.
That is only indicative. I'll just check there's no one waiting out in the public.
I can do that for you, Josh.
Okay.
Not today.
No speakers.
That's something, isn't it?
Okay,
So shall we
move on to
move on?
Yep. Yes. There's no speakers.
Right, so are there any items to be raised that weren't included in the agenda that anyone would like to talk to?
No.
No. Anyone wishing to declare a conflict of interest?
I'm employed by the Coromandel Independent Living Trust.
Yes.
At some stage through the next 3 years, it could be a conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. I guess the moving forward, it's keeping an eye on what's coming up in the agenda and what's to form part of the meeting, and just being aware as to whether that could be a conflict or not, and making a note at each meeting if there's something there, so that we're reminded. Thank you. Okay, so the next item 2.1, the Coromandel-Colville Community Board CAPEX work program.
page 101 on your agenda.
And we have Andrew with us. Probably
Online, but
he's probably going to come online at 9:30.
no, you'll have someone chasing him.
So while we're trying to track him down, has everyone had a look through the CAPEX work program? Full set of voice.
We could always, if we wanted to, move on to the annual plan one, because Kate's online, and go back to the work program, if you would prefer.
Okay, if Kate's there. So yeah, I'd move that item 2.1.
Oh, that'll be Kate's background.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I moved item 2.1 get moved to the back of the agenda, and we address item 2.1 next.
Page 106.
So Kate, welcome to our meeting.
Tēnā koutou, ko Kate Lewis taku ingoa. I'm Kate, I'm in our policy and planning team. Live over the hill in Whitianga. Apologies, I'm not there in person, but it's great to be here online with you. I am in a shared office, so there is a bit of background noise. If it gets too tricky, I can try and find another space, but hopefully we're all good. The report's got a bit of detail in there about the annual plan. If it's okay through the chair, Jeff, I'd quite like to just talk a little bit about our annual plan and long-term planning cycles, as well as a little bit about what we're expecting to be consulting on through our next annual plan process and the timings around that.
That'd be great.
Sound okay? Excellent. Yep. So apologies if I'm telling anyone to suck eggs. I'm aware there's a number of new members, so I just wanted to talk a bit about our planning cycle. Our current long-term plan was adopted on at the end of June last year in 2021. And it took effect from the 1st of July 2021 for that financial year. Now, the long-term plan does cover 10 years. It is, however, reviewed every 3 years. And for year one of the long-term plan, it includes the annual plan information. Year two of our long-term plan, we have to adopt annual plans in the interim years between reviewing the long-term plan. So year two, we adopted our annual plan for 22-23, which is our current financial year. And then this report's about our next annual plan, which is year 3 of that planning cycle for 23-24. Now, the long-term plan is always consulted on, and there's a lot of work that goes into developing that, and that process has already started. And our annual plans, they need to be consulted on where there's differences that are significant or material from what we had forecast in our long-term plan. So 21-22, our first year for our long-term plan, we had COVID lockdowns, a number of supply chain issues and demands. So there were already some changes that had to happen in year 2 for our annual plan around that CAPEX program. Those changes just get bigger each time we compare it with what was forecast in our long-term plan. We've also got something that we're aware of that will be a significant difference is changes to our solid waste activity and the curbside pickup collections. And we'll be consulting around the options for how that is funded. So solid waste, curbside collections and the CAPEX programs are very likely to be items that we consult on. And there's a number of other things that, while we need to do an assessment of significance against our policy, our significance and engagement policy, to determine the best approach for consulting on those and how we engage. And so that work is still yet to be done. Timing wise, we'll be this report's been to council. It's now in the process of coming to all of the community boards to keep you informed. Timing, we'll be coming back to council in the new year, hopefully with our draft budgets and options for consultation. And then the consultation process will likely occur early March through to April next year. And then we go through a deliberation or decision-making process with council, and then council must adopt it in time for 1 July next year. Any questions? I'm happy to answer anything that you have or attempt to.
No, all good.
Done silence.
No, everybody's happy. Kate,
Excellent. Great. Well, if there's anything, any questions that you have, just go through Margaret or Dean, and I'm happy to follow up as required.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
So I'd like to move that we receive the 23-24 annual plan report dated 31 October 22.
Second it.
And any discussion about it? See the discussion a little bit there about the consultation and the means by which the community will be consulted and engaged. I guess for us, it's just important that we find a way that's appropriate for our community, and make sure that we kind of get as much opinion or get the feedback from people as opposed to just kind of glossing over it. It'd be nice to, especially that rubbish one. I imagine rubbish is quite contentious, and but as Kate said, uncertain how it would be funded. We need to decide how it would be funded. So I think work for us to do in that consultation phase. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favour of the resolution passing? Of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. The resolution is passed.
We've got Andrew online.
Have we tracked Andrew down?
Yes, he's online now.
Here I am.
Where are we? Back to page 101. Andrew, welcome to our meeting.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Some of you I've not met before.
I'm Gavin.
G'day, Gavin. Are you the chairperson?
Yes.
Good man.
Hope so. We'll find out.
Well, yeah. Right. The work programme that you've got in front of you is updated every month. And basically the spend for up to the end of the month that we are reviewing is in one of the columns. That's the third column with the the third column of the costs with the budgets that are in the LTP, which form the annual plan, and the forecast to spend by the end of the year, 30th of June, is in the right-hand column. We are, in a way, in the early stages of the year. By the end of October, hopefully, the planning is either finished or ongoing, and the work will proceed every month based on, progress and how things are going. So they're all the projects that are there are tracking along reasonably well. The only one which is on the second page is Takuma Road intersection, which is a significant thorn in my side at the moment. We are trying to finalise geotech issues with NZTA, which is, to put it bluntly, a big challenge with them at the moment. And but we are working through that with our consultants, and we're hopeful to get something agreed between now and the end of this calendar year. We have a particularly good relationship with Ngāti Whanonga, with Mike Baker at the moment. We have gone to great lengths to consult with iwi, bearing in mind that on the left and right hand side of Takuma Road itself, on the way to Sugarloaf, there was an old Maori village there. A pa on the opposite side of the road, above the state highway, overlooks the intersection, and we have a cultural impact assessment from Ngāti Whanonga, which is currently being updated. So Mike Baker is our contact. We have very, very good relationship with him and his colleagues, and we're hopeful to get the updated CIA, I would say, between now and the end of December. So as far as they're concerned, we're doing very well. Once we have the NZTA geotech issues out of the way, we can then focus on the landowners, the Moore family close by, and also there's 3 small parcels of land that are owned by iwi, and we'll start to negotiate with them. So this is a project that is my main issue at the moment, and but we are moving forward. Okay. If you've got any questions on that project, I can either answer them now or by email afterwards, but NZTA is our big focus at the moment. So any questions for anybody, by the way? Sorry.
Andrew, do you think that the issues with the intersection are tied in also with the objections, I guess, to the Sugarloaf development?
They are not related to that in any way whatsoever.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so they are, both projects are mutually exclusive. However, if Sugarloaf does come off, and I believe there are 2 appeals to the consent at the moment, then addressing the health and safety issues at the intersection for the larger trucks that will access Takuma Road become very important. I am hopeful, and I believe that the consent for Sugarloaf will end up in court, and I know that the Waiouna Bay people and Ngāti Whanonga have joined them objecting to the consent for Sugarloaf. Where that goes, I don't know. I'm not involved. Lorna White is closer to that project, but we are very aware that the intersection works, and again, part of which are on the state highway, are integral or important with regard to the success of Sugarloaf.
Yeah,
So with that connection is important to us, but bear in mind that the consent will go is going to go to court. I think what we have to do is do as much as we can to get NZTA on board. We have a consultant who is highly experienced at negotiating terms for land purchase through the Public Works Act, and he's like a coiled spring at the moment, just waiting to start the process off. So it's a very challenging project, very challenging indeed, and dealing with NZTA is difficult.
and to spend $950,000 before the 30th of June 23 gets us to what point?
At the moment, I couldn't tell you. I would hope that we will have completed the land purchase for the various areas by the end of this year, this financial year, and but I don't know how much we'll be spending. The Moore family, we've been talking, believe it or not, you might find this interesting. We've been talking to the Moore family for probably 10 to 15 years about this project, and we have spent a reasonable amount of money with their lawyer and barrister in Auckland to do that. So I don't know what the land purchase costs will be. I have no idea at the moment because we haven't really engaged with the Moore family. I think iwi will be quite easy to manage. Bear in mind the relationship that we've established with Ngāti Whanonga, which is good. But the Moore family, yeah, they are.
Right. Good luck.
They're another challenge. But NZTA, we have to get them across the line, and we've got a civil engineering consultant, a geotech consultant, a peer reviewer, all involved in that process, and we are close at the moment. We are close.
Thank you. And one last thing from me. I see under Parks and Reserves renewals.
Yes.
Where between the completed work and the planned work, there's still $10,000-ish in the kitty.
Yeah.
Is that something that the community board have the ability to find a home for, or is it something that gets taken away?
No, I think the community board do have an opportunity. Bear in mind that I think it would be wise, and I'm not trying to force you down this line of thought, that we keep it as a discussion item in the next probably 6 months, and then we see how much has been spent, and should we find that there are items that you would like to include in the renewals, that we can do it. So yes, the answer is yes.
Cool, thank you.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? No, that's it. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to meeting you all at some time in the future.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you just look to the end of that report, you'll see another item on page 105 that says other information and updates. So this is work that the previous community board has considered to be of interest or significant to the board. And this is where, but they're not CAPEX projects. And sometimes they're not even council projects, they're not board projects, but they're community projects that are of high interest that the board would like to keep on top of and get reports on. So that's what this little section is about. And these are the things that we are watching at the moment, or you are watching. So that's what this is about. So if you've got any questions, just let me know.
Through the chair. Harricky House, has that been done? Because it wasn't supposed to be finalised in October?
You are quite right, and council has done all of what is required of them. And we are now waiting for the Ministry of Education to make the final tick off, and then it will be done. I'm told by our property manager that we're this close.
It's only been 40 years.
It's only been since 2001. So we're this close. But for all intents and purposes, the paperwork is done. It's just, that's what we're waiting for.
It's just that is the
That's
thing that
final.
matters.
Correct.
And what does that, getting that finished?
Okay, so what that means is across at the Hauraki
Yep.
House Reserve there, the car park area that adjoins the building.
Yep.
Council owns the building and the footprint of land that the building's on,
Yep.
but the part that they use for car parking, the tarmac bit, is still under the ownership of the Ministry of Education.
Yep.
So the ministry had to go through a whole process of declaring that piece of land surplus to the requirements, meaning surplus to the Coromandel area schools requirements.
Yep.
It's been a very lengthy process, and the previous mayor put a lot of effort in her last term to try and get us to this point. And we're at that point, but what it has meant is that council has been unable to do any work or improvements on that area because it's not council owned land. And so once it is, council has, or this board has made a commitment to that area that they will get the car park area sorted properly. Yeah, so that's what that's about.
Cool.
Any other questions or all good?
Good, okay, so the suggested resolution is that we receive the Community Board CAPEX work program 22-23 and the other information updates. You have a mover and a second. Please.
I'll move it. A second.
Can Jenny?
All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried.
So you can now declare, there's nothing else.
I think that's it, unless there's anything else that we've missed. Someone's banging on the door. Okay, with that, declare the meeting closed at 10:43 a.m. Thank you very much.
Wow.
9:43.
9:43. Yeah. Getting ahead of myself.
That's right, we'll get the time zone.
At my age, I can't afford to do this now.
Let's be trying.